Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ward 3 Neighborhood Planning Assembly. My name is Chris Hazley. I'm one of the steering committee members here. I'll be facilitating tonight's meeting. I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight to participate. There's plenty of other things you could have done on your Wednesday evening, but you chose to be here with us, and we're very grateful for that. So without further ado, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor? Aye. This agenda has been adopted. Moving on, our first item of business will be city council updates. Before we begin, though, I wanted to make a little bit of an announcement. We've decided to kind of change up our format on this. As many folks have pointed out and observed, we have not heard from our very own Ward 3 City Councilor, Councilor Joseph Kane, in more than a year. So given the situation there, we've decided that since there are 12 councilors, it might be helpful to get a variety of perspectives from across the city. Last month, we were fortunate to hear from Councilor Grant, who represents us in the Central District. And tonight we'll be hearing from Councilor Becca Brown McKnight, a city councilor from Ward 6. So without any further ado, I'll turn the floor to you, Councilor Brown McKnight, and talks about the work of the city council and its subcommittees.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's fun to come to. Usually I attend the Ward 6 NPA, but I'm always happy to visit other wards, especially this district downtown. I'm down here almost every day, whether for doing work for the city or hanging out with my kids and my husband or doing professional work. So I'm a big fan of our downtown. And that's actually a great segue into a lot of the work that the council has been up to this summer and into the early fall. So there's really two initiatives that I want to flag for you that have rolled out and are already starting to show an impact over the past few months. So I'll just give you a quick overview on those, and then I'm happy to take some questions. And I should also say the council works on a wide variety of things, everything from public safety and housing and affordability to nudity ordinances and other smaller issues like that. So if there's something that you're interested in hearing about that I don't mention, please feel free to shout it out. There's a lot of great work being done all over the city. Also, I should flag for you that I serve on the Charter Change Committee, the REIB Committee, and the Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee. So in terms of work behind the scenes, those are kind of the areas that I tend to know about most closely. But back to the two major initiatives I wanted to share with you. Last May, we introduced a resolution, which I was the main author and sponsor of, which was designed to really support a thriving local economy. And I can't remember the exact name of the resolution right now, but a welcoming, safe, thriving downtown, both for the local business community, for visitors, and of course, for residents like all of us who are down here every day. And that resolution had a few main pieces. Part of it was logistics and transportation issues, dealing with the Main Street construction and asking for some changes there. Improvements for parking, both in the parking garage, which I know Sheriff Gamlin is going to talk about later, as well as opening up some opportunities for free parking. We also worked on some safety initiatives with Chief Burke, who has been doing an amazing job, as well as working with the Office of Business and Workforce Development to do some signage to encourage people to come downtown, as well as to look a little bit longer term at what type of downtown economy the city kind of should move towards having, given the modern world that we're living in and all of the changes our local economy has faced in the past few years. So that was the first one. Some results of that are, I think the biggest, most visible result of that is that I don't know how everybody got here tonight, but I drove down Main Street because it was open. And then I parked my car for free at the Main and Winooski lot. And so, that's really the most visible change. We've opened back up Main Street with a great partnership of DPW and the mayor's office. It's open on nights and weekends, and we're already hearing some great responses and impacts of that. Of course, it doesn't solve everything. There's still a lot of construction out there. That will be wrapping up in November for the year, which is nicely timed for the holiday season. The second big initiative was following some really unacceptably violent acts and crimes. We responded by introducing a resolution all about City Hall Park and making the park safer. And we just got a great update from Chief Burke at Monday's council meeting, demonstrating that even though it hasn't been that long since the resolution passed, it's only been probably maybe, I think there were about 4 or 5 weeks of data in his report. We're definitely already seeing some shifts. And in my mind, I'm seeing a lot of positive shifts, increase in interrupting drug behavior, whether it's dealing or open use of drugs, and seeing an ability to disperse a lot of the either illegal or antisocial behavior that we're seeing in the park. Definitely doesn't solve everything. A lot of the issues that are conflating with one another downtown are multifaceted and require longer term solutions, of course. But I'm really pleased to see at least some progress and to know that we can work with our law enforcement officers in partnership and see some positive change in the city, because I think it's been a long time that people have been asking for that. It's been a long time that I've been wanting to see that. And we're starting to see just, a glimmer of that, which I'm very grateful for. I'll pause there, and that's really what I wanted to cover. I'm happy to go deeper on any of that or talk about other issues.
Brooks.
So I watched the meeting via YouTube on the Monday meeting.
Great.
I understand the police chief's report was awesome. Some really revealing data there. And as a person that's in City Hall Park probably 2 or 3 times a day, there's been a noticeable change. The really big noticeable change was today after the drug dealer arrest was made. I mean, it was like there were probably 6 or 8 people in that park. It was a breath of fresh air. I could sit there and enjoy the park. I understand from the data and others that, we are pushing them a block or 2 away. But my view is we need a defendable barrier. It's like it's a park. So we make the other neighborhoods or other things, roads may suffer, but it's a beautiful park. We spend a ton of money. Children play in the fountain. It's like that's where this needs to end. So I understand that people may not appreciate that live on St. Paul or College or Main Street, but given what's going on, at least it's a glimmer of hope in the core of Burlington, where you can go to the park and just enjoy the park. So thank you very much. I know there was some, I won't say contention, but some varying opinions on whether that resolution was, appropriate, but I see nothing but upside on that.
Well, thank you so much. And I think that is exactly the kind of feedback that I'm looking for, and it's okay if that's not your feedback and you have a different perspective. I want to hear that too. But, yes, the unfortunate part is that it's not like we're seeing the behavior get just erased and completely taken away. And that wasn't really the expectation that anyone had. That's not realistic. But we are seeing changes and movement. And yes, I'll anecdotally, certainly so many people have come up to me and talked about their experience in the park. And I know that also I think it's leading to some really nice trust building with our BPD officers who people are walking up to and seeing more often in the park and saying thank you and having really positive interactions with. But I think you raised something that I mentioned at the council meeting on Monday, which is it's true. If issues are popping up in other neighborhoods, other streets, that could very well be a very real problem for folks that are near there. And that's a conversation for us to have as a community, because we need to make hard choices. We need to prioritize which spaces are going to be our focus and what we might be okay with, being a less safe environment. I mean, I'm not okay with any environments being less safe, really, fundamentally, but that's kind of the choice we're faced with right now. And I agree. I think it's appropriate that the park is a priority. I mean, I'm looking at this picture right here of this kiddo in the splash pad. And, I want to make sure that kids can run around in their bathing suits and that their parents can feel safe and not be looking over their shoulders all the time, worried that they're going to step on a needle or that there's going to be a drug deal less than a block away. So I think that prioritization is appropriate. And I'm so glad you're having that experience.
And the other thing that was reiterated was we need to get with our legislature to change the rules. I haven't looked at rule number 3 that he referred to,
Me either.
but he was very articulate about they're not the judicial system, right?
Right.
And so there's it feels like this long lineage of, well, you can't do this, can't do on bail, that first person was at 125 instances. It was like, I'm frustrated that person is still on the streets, but I'll stop.
Yeah, me too. And just know, I don't want to take up too much time on that because it is very complex, but just know there are a lot of conversations going on between the city council and the state legislature and the governor's office and the judicial system. And my perspective, most of that is completely out of my purview and above my pay grade, but I think we need to start chipping away at it. And my hope is that the data that's resulted from this resolution can help us can help serve as a roadmap so that we can say, okay, that first person you mentioned on the chart, that's a person that struggles with mental health issues. So does that tell us that maybe we need to prioritize building new mental health facilities? And that can be our main ask, because we're probably only going to get 1 or 2 asks completed if we're lucky from the governor and the state house. So 100%.
Just an interesting thing to take off of what you're saying. It's sort of, I hope the council realizes that this lets them know that we do have the ability to move these folks to other places. I mean, if we don't want them there's a mechanism whereby we can move them and put them, we can't solve all the problems, but we certainly can move them to a more, I can't want to say appropriate, none of it's appropriate, but to a more appropriate place. We don't just have to let it spread out everywhere. And I think if we think about that in terms of the overdose prevention site, we have the opportunity to move them where we want them to go and not put it right downtown and let them come there. If we're hell-bent on having an overdose prevention site, which it sounds like we are.
Yeah.
So we have an opportunity to move them where we want them to go. We have proof of that. So
Thank you.
that's my point. Thank you.
Charlie.
Oh, sorry, I missed Charlie. Excuse me.
That's what you get for hiding behind there. Yes, I pass by the park. I live at Pine and College. And we get people coming into our parking lot and making the parking lot their own in a little way. If they can hide behind the last car and fall asleep and sleep till morning, it's a great night for them. But it's, as I've explained over the years, the game of whack-a-mole, that's what we play. We have to really make someplace else better. We don't want to make the park the default place for everyone to hang out. And it sure is. The previous mayor, long ago said, all we have to do is spend $12 million and it'll be so nice and the grass will be great again. And we can cut down all these trees that are blocking the view of the police to this activity. And we argued with him about the trees. There was, the Coalition for a Livable City. There were about 20 of us, 30 of us. And, we said that people have to go somewhere. We can't just clean up the park and magically make it disappear. More lights and some police on foot is what I thought was a good idea then. I still think it's a good idea. I also thought that that we could cut the park in half psychologically, and the side that's near College Street they have occupied, and the other side they have not. Why don't we? People could hang around on the other side of the park and sort of coexist. But I do realize that the very sight of unsavory characters haunts people. They're just not used to having to be defensive all the time and feeling like, I mean, I'm okay. I can walk past the park, and I do every day. I do not look like I have money. And I also say hello.
Thanks.
Yes, that's about.
Well,
Yeah.
can I respond?
Absolutely.
Something you said, just I wanted to kind of underline, which you're talking about, the importance of all kinds of people getting into the park and enjoying it. And I think that's really so key. We have to sort of, City Hall Park belongs to all of us. It's important for all of us as residents to show up there and to occupy that space and to enjoy it and to exist in that joy and I think that can only help us move more quickly towards the future that we want to see. And there's so much amazing programming in the park going on still. I was there on Saturday listening to an incredible rock band. There's a whole concert series. I think there's a few more dates, and it's all free. And so it's very kid friendly. BCA does an amazing job of setting up these cool kid play areas that I know my kids love to interact with. So that's just a little bit of a sales pitch to everybody to go do something fun in the park. There's a beautiful new art installation archway that's brand new this week. You should go check it out. I think that can only be a positive force as we work to solve the very real difficult problems.
Just have one check in here. So one of the things that's been pretty well established over the past few years is that a lot of the issues that we see here in the downtown are being perpetrated by a small group of people that are well known to law enforcement. By small, I think the number I heard is 40 to 50 or maybe 50 to 60. I don't remember the exact number, but the thing that I found most curious about it is these individuals are also known to be quote unquote service resistant, meaning they're struggling with a substance use disorder for which they refuse to seek treatment despite the fact that it's been offered. So recognizing that it is a medical problem and recognizing that patients have a legal right to refuse treatment, it's my body, my choice. How would you propose that we deal with these folks who are engaging in behavior that infringe on the rights of others and cause harm to our community?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question, Chris. And I don't have an easy answer to that because, as you say, this quickly becomes an issue of rights and legality. And for better or for worse, even when somebody is continually existing in a kind of permanent state of mental health crisis, and every logical person can look at that person and say they need to be in a mental health facility for a long period of time to get the help they need. We are not allowed to do that because of the law. For me, I would say there are other states that have different laws and that have different processes. I think New York State has a lot more resources, and I think we need to look at other states as models. If there's anyone out there that's succeeding in that area, I would say let's use that and try to replicate it here and identify the laws that we do need to change and have a discussion as a state as to whether we're comfortable doing that and whether we feel like it's true to the values of Vermonters.
Thank you, Counselor. Do we have room for one
We have
question?
1 minute.
Mr. Belfer, you had a quick question.
So regarding City Hall Park, I appreciate the guidance to encourage people to go down there. It's important that we occupy the space so that way it doesn't more uncivil behavior doesn't fill the void. I think that it's important that we're not going to solve the addiction crisis. People that engage in the antisocial behavior will always be around. But one of the best ways, one of the best things that we can do as a city is to draw a line in the sand in certain public spaces to say, no, we are going to enforce the law and your unlawful actions and your criminal behavior is not going to be tolerated. We're not going to turn a blind eye to you selling methamphetamines next to a kid's splash pad anymore. Like, just enforce the laws, chase the drug dealers away, and just like food at a picnic, a lot of the antisocial behavior leaves because they follow the drug dealers. That's what they want. That's kind of the problem with the safe injection site, because unless you're giving out free dope, there's limited reason for them to go there. But yeah, if you chase the drug dealers out, a lot of the problems go away with it. I mean, they might go to a side street, but how important is City Hall Park to the overall vibe and feel for the commerce downtown and for the tourists that come in and the people that live in Chittenden County that we need to come in and shop in our downtown? It's really important. So in the marketplace and City Hall Park saying, no, we're not going to allow your trafficking of drugs and your solicitation on the corner of Church and Main. Like, it's done. So I appreciate you moving forward with this.
Want to make final parting comments before we move on to the next topic?
I always just like to remind people to look at the sign that is at I think it's usually at the southwest entrance to the park. And it says really simple things like, so the most basic rules that we've long established in our parks: no smoking, no drugs, no drinking, I think, and no fighting. I think I don't have the sign in front of me, but that's kind of getting at what a lot of you are saying. You know, we have a basic set of rules, and the rules in a park and on the Church Street Marketplace are different than the rules across the city, right? Like, you can smoke a cigarette walking down Main Street. That's not illegal, but it is illegal in our parks. And there's a reason for that. And a longstanding history of kind of keeping certain public spaces, particularly that children are meant to occupy, to a higher safety standard and a higher quality of life standard. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of the direction that I would like to see us headed.
All right, thank you, Counselor, for coming to visit us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone, for taking the time to engage and ask some thoughtful questions here. Now, I think 6:55, right on schedule. We'll be moving on to consider the resolution on the polling place for Ward 3. To provide a little context here, the city went through a redistricting process just a few years ago, and Ward 3, along with a number of other wards, the boundaries were changed. At present, our current polling location where people go to vote in person is the Sustainability Academy, the former Lawrence Barnes Elementary School on North Street, which is literally the northernmost point in Ward 3. And one of the challenges we have is getting people out to vote is, having to deal with transportation barriers and whatnot. And when you look at a map, the current polling location is almost a 1 mile walk from the southernmost portions of the ward down in the King Maple neighborhood down by the Bobbin Mill. It's almost a 20-minute walk to get people there. And the folks, that live in that neighborhood have a number of different challenges, a number of new Americans, transportation. So the thought was, we kind of batted this around the steering committee. The thought was, let's try to get a polling location that's more centrally located, that is, within the more accessible to people in the ward. And City Hall is kind of the geographic center. It's where we hold our meetings. So we thought that this would be a reasonable proposal. So Zach, you want to make the motion to adopt the resolution?
We can do this more discussion on it, but yeah, no, I make a motion to adopt.
I second.
Second.
and consistent with the city council tradition, we will waive the reading. How many people have a copy of it that's brought around? I don't know if we can pull it up on screen for the folks there, but if anyone needs a copy, I have them here. If folks have any questions about that? Say.
It's just turn it over too, because
It's on, yeah, the actual resolve clause is on the back side, so it's like, wait, where's the other page? So Zach, I don't know if you want to speak to this as the person who made the motion, just kind of.
Oh, well, to parody off a little bit what you said earlier, and what was stated in the resolution is that by moving it to a more centralized location, it would alleviate some geographic traveling barriers for a lot of people. But also considering in this day and age with the current state of affairs of our nation, it's a little bit of like a welcome exercise to actually have a voting station be at the representative city hall. And so kind of like add that a little bit of like celebration of the exercise of voting, like come down to the town center and actually casting your ballot.
So,
Great, this deliberation.
yeah, you have something to say, Sam, as our former ward.
Yes, hello everyone. Is this connected to the?
Just,
It's
Yeah,
online.
perfect. That's what I thought. Hi. Yes, I am Sam Powers. I'm our former Ward 3 ward clerk. I have administered the past 4 elections. Is that right, Charlie? Is it 4? Yeah, thanks. At Lawrence Barnes Elementary Sustainability Academy. I was consulted actually in the, I think, beginning deliberations by Chris on whether or not I thought this was a good idea. At the time I said no. I believe the same thing today. I think this is another in a series of actions taken by this NPA to divide itself. Am I muting? Are you good? Okay. All right, cool. Okay. To divide itself from Ward 2, and further fracture the community ties that we have had with Ward 2 for a really long time. I also think City Hall is quite alienating to people in the community. I think Lawrence Barnes, or even the Old North End Community Center, which we've had conversations with Wendy Coe from Ward 2, the ward clerk from Ward 2, who thinks that it would be an interesting idea to actually have Wards 2 and 3 both in the Old North End Community Center, because oftentimes we have people from Ward 2 who think they're in Ward 3 but are actually in Ward 2. And so they actually have to, we say, you actually have to go to the Old North End Community Center. So all this to say, I am strongly opposed, as someone who's worked at the polls for many years, to this resolution, because I actually think it does the opposite of what you two have argued, which is it further fractures our community, and I don't think it respects the ties that have been built. So yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, I just want to respond to a few comments. So, for those of you who are not aware, Ward 3 is more than just the Old North End. It also has downtown, Central Business District, the waterfront, and King Maple neighborhoods, which have been kicked to the curb and largely marginalized for the past 25 years when Wards 2 and 3 were operating jointly. And the reality is we have a number of new Americans who are also marginalized, who live in the southernmost part of the 3rd Ward, who deserve to have access to the ballot and to be able to walk to that. And I'm just kind of surprised that we're having a conversation about ballot access and about polling location. Yet once again, this is now becoming an issue of, where's 2 and 3 NPA. That's a settled question. It's been done for a year. People need to move on. Get over it.
Cool. I believe I am allowed to respond now, right? Great. Yeah, I'd say that I actually just have a question, which is, who asked for this?
This was brought up a discussion among a number of folks who have been actively attending the Ward 3 NPA, and a recognition from a number of folks, particularly in the downtown King Maple and waterfront neighborhoods, that it's a long trek to get up there. And we've heard from a number of folks who are of a certain generation, seniors in particular, that, you know, have expressed concerns about having to literally walk to the northernmost part of the ward. And you know, it's mainly about trying to promote access to the ballot, to bring more people into the political process, and to give them an opportunity so they don't have to walk a mile to the polls.
Okay. As someone who's worked at the polls for a long time, I've heard a lot of complaints from a lot of constituents about a lot of different things. I haven't heard this complaint. And so I just want to say, I understand that it is a long walk, but it's also a long walk from the northern part of the ward as well. We are the most geographically condensed ward in the city, so it's not a long walk from point A to point B. And I, again, think this is just another in a long line of attempts to
Up here, did you have
fracture
a comments?
2 and 3.
Yeah, thank you. So, not sure what all that's about, but I will say that looking at this presents to me as voting access. And for the longest period of time prior to the last redistricting, sorry about that, Ward 3 and Ward 2 had an east-west divide, which made Lawrence Barnes seem rather appropriate. It was rather like the center of the cookie, right? Now we have this north-south divide where North Street, the street that Lawrence Barnes on, is literally the boundary line. So the polling location is at the very top of the entire ward. Seeing this, shifting it down to City Hall, provides more equal access to people in the King Maple neighborhood, down on the waterfront, and right here in the Church Street Marketplace. So as I see it, this would be promoting accessibility. I find City Hall, especially City Hall here in Burlington, to be one of the most inclusive and welcoming places I've ever walked into, other than an amusement park. So I don't think anybody's going to be scared away from voting. I also don't want to dismiss the idea that 1 mile in any direction is nothing to scoff about, because it's not. Like, I'm able-bodied, and yeah, I could walk that pretty quickly, but I know many people that are very reluctant to traverse our city sidewalks and not as able-bodied as I am. And I recognize that they equally have the right to go vote also. So I think that this would be promoting accessibility and voting for everybody in town. And I'm encouraged that you brought it forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Butler. We'll go with Trudy and then Charlie.
I was just going, I'm gonna say here. I'm one of those people that Chris is referring to that do have difficulty. And I much feel safer walking downtown than I do traversing the neighborhood. So, yeah, I appreciate it.
The sidewalks are different. I mean, they're like, they're old
Sidewalks are very
sidewalks.
different.
Yeah.
I live in an elderly housing, PHA, Pine College. I can just about promise that 90% of our people will not go over there. We should have a major push on mail-in voting or have it more central. If we do enough of a push with mail-in voting, then you can have it in wherever people want it, wherever people not, but they're not going to go over there.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that sentiment.
Give other people an opportunity.
Who else is wanting to
You and
speak?
I have spoken a couple of times, so.
Who else is speaking?
Anybody else want to, Brooks?
So I'm hoping this is pertinent to the discussion, but since the split of 2 and 3, the participation from 3 has been, I'll say, an order of magnitude, but many, many times more than when we were joint. So this is just, at my view, a continuation of building a Ward 3 NPA that is accessible, accepting, and easy to use for the people that are actually in Ward 3. I'm done.
Anybody else?
Great.
To be, everyone needs to speak 3 times, so.
Perfect. Ward 3, that's appropriate. I would just say that I echo, what's your name?
Charlie.
I echo Charlie's point, which is that if we actually cared about accessibility, we wouldn't be talking about where we're moving this, because there are people who live at the northernmost part of Ward 3 who will also have a tough time getting to City Hall. I think we should be focusing on what actually makes voting accessible, which is mail-in voting, which is programs that provide people ballot access through transportation. I strongly agree with that sentiment and just think this is kind of ridiculous.
Well, since this person and I do agree on something, and that is mail number back, if you wish to bring something forward, we would certainly be willing to entertain that. Any further questions, discussions on the resolution here? Not seeing any, we'll move into a vote on this. So all those in favor of adopting the resolution, please say aye. Aye. You want to count?
And or should we say?
4, 6.
Oh, wait, Charlie, please.
One. All right, everyone raise their hand high.
5. Let's get 1. All right, so we're at 11.
Opposed? Sam.
All right. Only opposite.
So the motion carries. The resolution has been adopted with a vote of 11 in favor and 1 opposed. Thank you for coming in to share your perspective on this. Moving forward, I think we actually might be a little bit ahead of time. We are about 5 minutes ahead of time. Mr. Dillard, are you ready to rock and roll on the city's comprehensive plan?
I am.
Should see that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So for those of you who don't know Mr. Dillard, Charles Dillard, he's with the Office of Planning, and he will be presenting on the comprehensive plan tonight.
Hi, everybody. My name is Charles Dillard. I am the director of the Office of City Planning for the city. Trying to bear with me. All right. So I was told I had 15 minutes. I can take all that time, half that time, leave some time for questions. I'll try and take about half that time.
Yeah, go ahead and have the question.
Yeah, okay, great. So thanks for having me. First of all, we being the city, all of the departments you see here below, CEDO, City Planning, Public Works, Parks, Recreation and Waterfront, and our partners with the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission are collaborating on this effort we're calling Plan BTV 2050. Many of you may know Plan BTV, which is our comprehensive plan, municipal plan. This time around, though, the city is combining planning efforts to craft a holistic long-term vision that is really intended to reflect the way that you all and we all, being city residents as well, live our daily lives. We are recognizing that our decisions and choices about housing have impacts on transportation, on parks, on economic development. And likewise, our decisions on all of those impact housing, and they are mutually supportive, hopefully, but not always has that been the case. So we are partnering with the consultant team on this project. Just to give you an idea here of the scope and the scale. The municipal plan is budgeted at 36,000. You can see the mobility element has a much larger budget, as does the parks element and the economic development element. So altogether, this is a unprecedented and generational opportunity in Burlington. So just a little bit more. Plan BTV is our comprehensive plan in the state of Vermont. Every town and city is required to have a comprehensive plan if they would like to have zoning and the ability to collect impact fees. The state requires that these plans be updated every 8 years. Ours was most recently adopted in 2019, and so the next one, this one will have to be adopted by March 25th, 27. That's just for the comprehensive plan element. We are trying to complete all 4 elements together, those being the municipal plan element, the mobility element, the parks, recreation, and waterfront element, and the economic development element. Just showing here at the bottom as well, and at the previous slide, you saw some of these. We also do area planning and topic specific planning. We're just finishing up Plan BTV New North End right now. That will wrap up in the next few months. By the end of the year, we have a Plan BTV South End. We have a Plan BTV Downtown and Waterfront. We do not have a Plan BTV, nor have we ever had a Plan BTV for the Old North End. And I'm assuming a lot of you folks sort of live in downtown or on the border or in the Old North End. And so the downtown plan is about 12 years old. So there's a lot that needs to be updated there. And we are committed to doing an Old North End plan once we conclude this comprehensive planning effort. So the municipal plan, like I said, was most recently updated in 2019. There are all of these sub-area plans and topic plans. We are also engaged in a citywide historic preservation planning effort right now called Preserve BTV. If you're interested in preservation, please get in touch with us. We can add you to the mailing list. There will be a public meeting, I believe, in a couple weeks. I'm not sure exactly of the location, but we can update you all, or you can visit the project website. So the need here is significant. Obviously, the last plan being adopted in 2019 means that much has changed in our community and across the country, and indeed the world. Specifically, housing demand has remained strong, grown, but capacity is limited. Housing costs are unsustainably high, and they are not equitable across populations. There's uneven growth across the city and the region, which threatens downtown. Community health and safety challenges are paramount as well. Climate change is underneath and above all of this, and it has many impacts into what we do, transportation and net zero energy. The federal funding picture is obviously inconsistent and will remain unclear, at least in the short term. Large capital projects have stretched the community's capacity as well. So again, this is an opportunity to coordinate and prioritize what the community feels is most important and look toward a more holistic vision for the future. In terms of mobility, we do have several topic and area specific plans that include mobility components. We do have a transportation plan from 2011, although I will say that is a very sort of abridged plan. If you find it online, it's very short. It is not heavy on details. This citywide transportation plan will be unprecedented. It will, both in its scope, and its size and its scale and the amount of information that it includes. It will address transportation issues citywide, incorporating all of the elements of the transportation planning that has been done in these plans here. But also, this plan was called for by a city council resolution, and one of those specific asks was to look at downtown streets and pedestrian and bike safety. So the need here is great. We are really missing our mode split goals, which means basically 10 years ago, we had a plan for walking and biking that said we want to have a certain number of people riding the bus and walking and biking by 2030. We are well off the mark. And in fact, we're going in the wrong direction after COVID. This is true across the country. Burlington is not alone in this regard. And so we're really trying to find a way in this mobility plan, again, to sort of match the way that we grow in terms of housing with our transportation system. We all know the cuts that the transit is facing. The federal government has abandoned funding for bike and pedestrian planning as well. And so we will need to think creatively about the short term. Economic development, the city has never had a citywide economic development strategy, although there are economic development sort of components to all of these plans as well, like the other elements. This also came out of a more recent city council resolution, which specifically called for addressing the economy of downtown and what we can do as a city to understand the transition that it has gone. Burlington's downtown is not alone across the country in the way that it has struggled. I think we probably had farther to fall because our downtown was so successful relative to other cities of our size, especially. But obviously, the pandemic had huge impacts on consumer behaviors, office space sort of utilization. There's a lot fewer people walking around at lunchtime. There has been a reduction in business revenue. Economic activity is dispersing from the heavily impacted downtown core. There are parts of the city that are thriving. So we want to help continue that success while spreading the love across the geography, but also among populations. I think we also have an economic development history in the city where specifically BIPOC populations and businesses have not succeeded in the same way that some others have. And we have been heavily tourism based as a community. And I think as many tourism based communities, especially along the Canadian border, have realized in recent months, this might not be sustainable, especially in the short term. Our institutional anchors continue to evolve and will continue to evolve, and we hope to understand the role that they can play in the economic development outlook. So the Parks, Recreation, and Waterfront Plan is an update to a 2015 system plan. That is a very high-level plan. Like the City Planning Office, the Parks Department does comprehensive plans for individual parks across the city. And like all the other elements, much has changed since that plan was adopted. COVID-19 really increased demands on urban green spaces. Climate change is really affecting the ecology of our park system and our open spaces. Pressures on open spaces from the just large and growing numbers of unhoused community members. There's a greater focus on wellness, health, and safety for folks in our community. And so again, just to tie it all together, we want to understand how all of these elements impact each other and how we can plan for the 7,000 new units of housing, which the state is asking us to do by 2050 in a way that is done sustainably and helps regenerate our economy and the ecology of our region as well, and the safety and security of our residents. We're going to do this in one way by using a scenario planning approach. And so as we get into community engagement, you all will be invited to community workshops where you're asked to sort of look at a few different scenarios of growth that incorporate by 2050 those 7,000 new homes. For example, one scenario might say, and I'm just using this as an example, we won't do this, but let's say we want to put all 7,000 units downtown. What would that mean for downtown's transportation system? Or if we wanted to put half of that in the south end and half of that in the new north end and say nothing downtown, what would that mean for the city's transportation system? Obviously, it's going to be much more balanced. Different scenarios about sort of development styles and capacity and sites. We have a lot of great planning for the new north end and the south end. So we'll be able to plug those numbers in and eventually generate lots of data indicators about the economy, park system, transportation, all that sort of stuff. But this will be a very engagement-rich process. The timeline, we're hoping to have a consultant on board in November. And then real community engagement is starting now. There's going to be a series of community workshops. There's an Old North End workshop happening on October 23rd at the community center, Old North End Community Center, and a downtown and waterfront visioning workshop on the 27th at the Community Sailing Center. So these are going to be an opportunity to review the plan VTB, the current comprehensive plan's vision and the themes of it. as well as all the other area plans, and sort of confirm with the community whether or not the visions laid out in those plans remain consistent with how they feel, and if not, how can we update them? And then after we do that, we'll do some work collecting that feedback, do another visioning workshop in late November, December with each of the areas of the city. We're doing 5 of these. And then we will really start the work of bringing our consultant on board and doing some planning work with the scenarios and all that through the year and wrap it up by the end of 26.
Thank you, Charles. Before we begin for questions in the room, I'd just like to see if there's anybody online, Zoom, that may have a question. I'm sure you all have an opportunity to participate. You do just use the raise hand function and we will call on you. Okay, not seeing any raised hands on Zoom. We'll move to the folks in the room. Anybody? Brooks?
Hey, thank you for that. I think Charlie and I have a similar, I'll say, concern about mobility so my wife is wheelchair bound, and Charlie and others in this room are in communities that have mobility issues. So I just want to get your thought. You did have a mobility section here, but how is that a significant concern or a significant item, and how are you addressing that?
Absolutely a significant concern. I will also point out, we do have an update to the city's walk bike plan, which is happening now, and that's all about walk, pedestrian, and bike safety. There should be a lot of content in there about accessibility. We will be working with the Walk Bike Council and the Council on Aging in the community. And we'll have a series of focus groups, and we'll be interviewing folks across the city and engaging on specific topics. But yes, I mean, this is a big concern. Our population is trending older. We have a lot of folks, elderly folks, especially with mobility challenges, not just older folks with mobility challenges. There are many in our community who have all types of mobility challenges for physical and intellectual and mental reasons. And yeah, so we'll be looking at that and trying to make it easier for folks. And there's also, obviously, mobility gets more challenging in the wintertime in our community. And so we'll be looking at that as well. So yes, I mean, I think we obviously have to plan for everything from transit and walking and biking, but also realizing that many in our community do need a car to get around and have to make space for everybody in our community, and understand that our streets and our public spaces have to be accessible in that way. So yeah, I mean, and we would love to I don't know, you live at a BHA property for older folks. We would love to come, do some workshops with you and your neighbors, and likewise, I mean, we're open to engaging folks where they are. So
This is kind of interesting. Things like, I love Church Street, but the cobblestones on Church Street with a wheelchair are not ideal. So not that I want to change it, but it's just that my mindset my perspective has changed over the coming years on what ability and accessibility.
Yeah, and it's not all about the infrastructure. There's also programs that the city has and can continue to develop to make it easier and more affordable for people to get around their community.
We do have a question online. If you could kindly state your name.
Hi, this is Alan Rubin. Hi,
Hey, Mr.
everybody. I'm curious, how can you even talk about this without even talking about the decrease in bus service and the terrible state of the sidewalks downtown?
Well, I did just Zoom. It was about bus service, and I did briefly mention transit, but I abbreviated the presentation. But yes, transit agencies across the country have fallen off fiscal cliff after fiscal cliff, GMT included. And we are engaged with GMT now on a number of initiatives, and they will be very much incorporated into this project. And it's a great question. I think when we do the scenario planning, all of this growth planning is looking 25 years ahead, and we will be looking at scenarios where, let's say, the transit funding stabilizes and GMT is able to be more adequately funded, and what would that look like? And maybe we'll also look at some scenarios where GMT continues to suffer financially, and what that might mean for the community, and what that might mean for the decisions we make about where growth is concentrated and spread around our community. But yeah, transit is a big element of this plan for sure.
I'll be 107 years old in 2050.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I'll be 107 years old in 2050, and the sidewalks will still be terrible. What are your plans for the sidewalks?
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. We do have a question from Jill Lesh at the back here, and Michelle, and then I think we'll probably need to move on to the next topic.
Thanks, Jill Lesh. The visioning process, is that open to the public? And if so, how will people know about it?
Yes, we are there. So there's going to be 2 visioning workshops for 5 parts of town. The New North End, the Old North End, the East End, downtown, and the South End. There will be two, one in October and then one in late November or December, depending on the area. We're going to start advertising these this week. Like I said, the Old North End and downtown are the 23rd and 27th respectively. So we'll start noticing those. We will also be creating online surveys for folks who can't attend those meetings in person. We are also engaged with our Trusted Community Voices partners in the city to do engagement with populations who can't or don't feel comfortable engaging with city staff, or who are more sort of better engaged by folks who are not, say, from the planning office. So yeah, a lot of opportunity for engagement. That second visioning workshop is, like I said earlier, an opportunity for us to have collected that feedback, bring it back to you to really confirm with the community what the vision is before we start to do the planning work and sort of starting to bring ideas to the table about what we can do in terms of the community. But there's going to be engagement throughout this process.
When you say advertising, where do I look for it?
Yeah, Front Porch Forum, the city's website. If you're on any of the mailing lists, we have hundreds and hundreds of folks who've signed up for city planning mailing list. You can go to the city planning website and sign up for the general mailing list or a specific area. NPAs are a way to do this. City councilors are providing their own updates. I mean, lots of ways. Social media.
Okay.
If you're on TikTok, we actually don't have a TikTok. I don't need to. I don't know. But yeah, we'll be on.
Thank you.
Online.
This isn't really a question, but I'm definitely going to be interested in some of those finer details, considering the millions upon millions of dollars that Vermont spent on building housing in the last couple of years, which would put somewhere around 4,500 houses together, and you're talking 7,000. So I'm very curious on the funding situation, considering Burlington's budget situation, not including our wastewater and our water situations and our internet situation. So I'm very curious on the finer details of this massive plan and what you have hidden in the backworks of that, just to say the least.
Well, nothing's hidden. That 7,000 number comes from the state's entire sort of statewide housing target by 2050, and every community is asked to build housing by 2050. South Burlington is actually a little bit higher than ours. We have passed the bond for wastewater. The state has also created the CHIP program, which is one opportunity perhaps to fund any needed water, transportation, or other social infrastructure to facilitate housing growth across the state. But it's a 25-year goal. You're right. I mean, we've been building housing at a rate of 77 units per year. That target says we need to build at 280 units a year. So it's 4 times the pace. And obviously things are going to get started really slowly. So we'll have to figure out as a community how we ramp up. If we don't do it, Vermont and Burlington will continue to be less and less affordable for people, and it will be harder for folks to move here, to work here, businesses to be here, and people to raise families and be successful.
No argument. I'm just very curious on how financially that's all going to come together.
Do it.
community. So I think we're at time for this particular agenda item. But I do want to point out that the comprehensive development plan, as it was called back in 1982, was one of the founding reasons why we have the NPA. So that folks like us can weigh in on these priorities. And it sounds like there's going to be additional opportunities moving forward for the NPA to get involved. And perhaps we could consider a special meeting that's focused entirely on the comprehensive plan, since it's certainly within our purview and opportunity to build some bridges here with planning office.
Yeah, just ask. We could look.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Dillon.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, rather.
The number 11 bus went from the waterfront to the hospital out to the airport. There is now no way to get to the hospital or the airport without a car or the money to rent an Uber or something. $40 to the airport. I said, how about 20? And he hung up on me. We need the number 11 bus, and we should do whatever funding contortions we have to do to get it back.
Thank you for a lot about them. So, thank you, Mr. Dillard.
Thank you.
So next up, we'll be hearing a presentation, from the UVM Student and Community Relations, talk about the relationship between students and the larger Burlington community. Gail Champnoy, President of the Office of Student and Community Relations, and Omar Talhouk, from the UVM Student Government Association. Mr. Talhouk serves on the, if I can remember this here, the COLCA Committee, which is Committee on Legislative and Community Affairs. Yes. All right. So we're happy to have them both here, and we look forward to hearing what you say. So without further ado.
Thank you very much. The presentation is going to be looking at neighborhoods. So we do a lot of work restoratively, and our goal is for resilient, healthy, and vibrant neighborhoods. And if I could, should I just put my finger up for, okay, thanks for doing that. So just a little bit about our Office of Student and Community Relations. So these are the things that we are committed to doing through our mission and the way we carry out our work. So safe and socially just environment. We provide guidance, support, and resources to off-campus students, cultivate a sense of belonging for students living in Burlington, and then assist students transitioning to off-campus living. And then we also identify issues that come up in the neighborhood that might involve our students and neighbors, or students and landlords, or roommates. And we also believe in dialogue and understanding and creating community and resolving conflict restoratively. So the Community Coalition, which Omar participates in, as well as other students, is made up of neighbors, city officials, city departments, neighborhood organizations, UVM and Champlain College staff and students. And we sit together to take a look at how we could create neighborhoods that are thriving. And then I'll tell you a little bit about the story of Isham Street, which we've done a significant amount of work on. So Brian Chena, who is also a state legislator, he's done a lot of work in the neighborhood. He lives on Isham Street, and his thought was, you know, the key to inspire someone to do something greater and unlock our optimistic doings. The theory is group concepts and collaboration. Start with just acknowledging people who live around you. They notice what you do too, so become a role model, invite people in, ask for their ideas. So he and Phil came up with Is Good, which is Isham Street Gardening and Other Optimistic Doings, as their neighborhood organization name. So this was Isham Street. As you can see, the Burlington Health and Rehab Center looms over the street. Used to be a lot of single family homes on the street. A lot of them changed over to rentals. Has a significant amount of students living on the street. And then we did the visioning process, Imagine Isham Street in 2018. So we started a number of years before that. And our students that worked in our office laid out the whole street with the actual buildings on it. And everybody in the community was invited to come and imagine what is it that you'd like to see on the street. So for the story of Isham starting in 2010, and if you click it, it'll show you all the, and you can do them all if you want. So ISGA was founded by Phil Hammerslow and Brian Chena. They selected gardening as the organization's focus. They collaborated with the Department of Public Works, which got bump outs to expand the green belt so trees could finally be planted on the street. We secured an AARP grant for $2,000. It's intergenerational work. There's a central community garden, and a landlord donated that land for the garden. And a lot of landlords gave permission for us to build planter boxes in front of their properties to fill. It was food and fruit and vegetables and flowers. And then the Burlington Rehab Center began an indoor milkweed project that they brought out onto the street. Here you can see that they were successful. So we had some monarch butterflies coming back to the street. And then for 2014 to 2017, we continued to do gardening, and we try to do at least 10 community events every year. So there might be a pumpkin decorating contest, a pop-up shovel thing. We just planted all mums on the street for the fall. And then we started a partnership with Upward Bound. So we brought youth from Burlington and Winooski High Schools to do projects with residents. And then we'd install 5 raised beds on Hickok Place and Isham Street. This is a wonderful organization. And if you're really thinking of doing some work, they like to support people that are doing grassroots work. So it's a New England Grassroots Environmental Fund. And that $2,500 really made a difference because planting is expensive. And once they see you successful, they tend to support you with other grants. So really wonderful organization. And this is some of us out there doing the planting. And then University Relations at UVM provided $2,000 to complete some of the gardening projects. We continued to expand onto Hickok Place, Green Street, Booth Street, and Loomis. We created signage and expansion of gardens. And then the goal is to do a gardening route through the neighborhood, which is still very much on Brian Chena's mind, and also how we could support that as an office as well. And then through COVID, for example, we did a lot about just signage, because we care about you. So a lot of our work tends to be right in the neighborhoods. And here are some students doing a food drop-off for us. And then this is the pumpkin event and the Welcome to the Neighborhood bag resources that get out. And some pumpkin entries. That was one of the winners.
Nice. Solid.
And you can see all the pumpkins along, how so many people had participated in that. And then we worked so hard, and then 2021 was a really hard time in the neighborhoods. We had crowds of young people on Hickok Place that very I think that a lot of people were acting out. We had some problems at the beach. And so because we had established strong relationships, when people came together, they just said, what do we need to do? How can we all help? How can we change some of what we're seeing? And they worked really, really hard to make a difference. And so as we went forward, we had the Department of Parks, Waterfront and Recreation helped us go into Pomeroy Park and do a pollinator garden. And it goes to your earlier comments that everybody had, that more people who go down to the City Hall Park, make it lively, have a presence there. It was started to reduce some of the negative behavior in Pomeroy Park. We also did signage for dogs pooping in the children's area. We just went door to door with a little sign, and then we put a sign on the playground, and that behavior, according to neighbors, had changed. So we really get out there and really try to work positively in our community to make change. CEDO donated $6,781 to the neighborhood project. And those funds built additional beds. And then we had a partnership with the sustainability class to look at climate change, resiliency, food security. Our public communications class created a podcast on a sense of belonging on Isham Street. So that's the Pomeroy Park scent garden. So what was the data telling us during the early years of the street strategy? And that burglary went down 60% on the street, noise went down 68%, vandalism went down 86%. And we looked at the streets around us, and they had increased on one street and stayed the same on another street. So this really shows that there was this work made a significant difference in that area. Positive indicators, students usually just live on a street for 1 year. They wanted to stay for 2 years. Families moved back on the street, rental turned to owner occupied. Residents began repairing stuff on street. It wasn't as good organization. They were retaping signs, rolling rocks back to gardens. Trash and needles were replaced by flowers. And there was just so much joy. One woman told me that she's not able to leave her room at the Burlington Health and Rehab Center, but now she looks out the window and sees flowers, and the difference it made in her life to know that somebody cared about not just the street, but they cared about her, her and the people that were in the rehab center. And this is a video of a student just saying, I don't know if we can get sound, but he was just talking about why he.
I don't have feedback, I think, if I turn on the sound.
Oh, okay. So what I'll say is his story was how much he loved living on the street, and how different it was from other streets he lived on. He really felt like this community cared about him and he cared about it. And this young woman stayed for 2 years. And at the very end, she said, "I'm so sorry to leave the street." So you can go to the next one. Thank you. And that's Brian has some fowl in his backyard, and the students from the Upward Bound just enjoyed being with all the chickens and the rooster that day. And then this is Phil Hammerslow, and he was the co-founder of Is Good. And according to Phil, he said, 17 years we lived here, attitudes have gone from what are you doing here? It's a student neighborhood to a place where we say hello to each other. Many students take 2-year leases. There's an influx of young working people. The best part is that people from other neighborhoods walk through to admire the changes, enjoy the gardens, and now they're asking us how they can do the same on their streets. So we use restorative principles in this work. And so we acknowledge that relationships are essential to building community. So we built up a lot of trust in that neighborhood. So with the turnover, constant turnover, it's not as much work now because we've had these relationships built and we've had this trust built. And the equity of voice among all members of the community, everyone is valued, everyone's experiences, wisdom, and attributes are acknowledged. Establishes a culture of high expectations. We don't go in as an office and pretend to know what the needs are in the neighborhood and also what the best solutions are. We give out neighborhood grants to help support whatever the neighborhood thinks it needs. We did a community garden on Buell Street. We do block parties on Fletcher Place. We support the Winterfest in the Old East End Neighborhood Coalition. And then we also build in systems that address harmful behavior in ways that strengthen relationships. So we center the person harmed for the person who caused harm. We don't talk about them being a good or bad person. It's about their behavior and its impact. And we all participate in conversations about how to repair harm done. And then we engage in collaborative problem solving. So the mayor Mayor Moreau Weinberger had been in that community for several visits and made a huge difference. We invited him, Phil, who's there, lives in Bernie Sanders' old house. We told the city what we did. We had already raised some funding. We told them what we would like to see them do. We invited them for a meal, and then we did a walk in the neighborhood. And I feel that approach that was about care and relationship led to some very, very positive outcomes too. And then accountability, individual and collective responsibility for the well-being of the neighborhood empowers change and growth. Lessons learned. So we work from restorative principles and social justice. We trust that people know their own needs and how to address them, avoid energy sinks, cultivate grassroots decision-making, identify and nurture partnerships that support neighborhood initiatives, provide institutional support, communicate needs, successes, and opportunities, invest time in storytelling to get people excited and interested. So think big, start small, create a clear vision, assess who is better off because of the work, and please do celebrate. That's the best part of all the work that we do, is that opportunity to feel good about what we're doing and about the changes. And students now, at one wedding, they have a table for Isham Street. So you could tell that there were very, very strong connections that were developed because of the work. And that's a celebrating in the piece of land that a landlord donated to Isgood. And it changed hands to another landlord, and that landlord honored the fact that it would remain a community garden. Same with the tenants. So the next one is there a lower input version? And yes, there is. So the story of Fletcher Place would be Fletcher Place has a block party every year. Susan and Bob Butani are the ones that had asked us a number of years ago. I think it was 2010 was the first one. And we've done it every year since. And there was a woman we'd always do a circle and we asked, that's their dog. And we asked people what the experience was like. And one woman said, in all of her life, she said, I'm 50 years old. In all of my life, I have never, ever felt welcomed in a neighborhood like I was here. And that just meant so much to Susan and Bob. And because of the work, the students and the neighbors, they help each other when someone's car gets stuck and during the winter time, they bring groceries to each other. It's just been really great to see the impact of that block party. And then that we do a lot of, whenever we do the block parties, we do things like paint pumpkins or something fun to do together. But we also do a circle where people get to share one thing about what's interesting to them, so that we don't all go to people we only know. You know, there's always strategies. People tend then to mix more. And then the Old East End Neighborhood Coalition, they're doing some fabulous work. They've done a mural, they've done a historic tour, they have done Winterfest. I think we're on their 4th Winterfest. They've done potlucks in the park over the summer, and this is Winterfest. And just a great example of a neighborhood that had a vision. They reopened the barn, which had been closed for many years, and they have snowshoes you can take out of the barn, and we help support that. So I wanted to ask if Omar wanted to say a few words about the Student Government Association.
Yeah, so I'm just going to keep this very brief just so that we have time for questions. But as was said, I'm part of the Committee on Legislative and Community Affairs. So there are a few things we take care of, but what matters for this meeting and this body is that we are the link between UVM, students and administration with Burlington and the greater state of Vermont. So we work to better that relation. Right before summer, we reached out to all representatives of all wards in Burlington. And I just want to mention 2 quick projects that are happening very soon. The Saturday after Hollow Weekend, in an attempt to give back to the neighborhood, we're hosting a community cleanup where this is open to all, but we encourage students to come the most, where we just go along some routes, pick up trash, obviously no needles because we don't have the safe disposal equipment for that or the training. So it's mostly trash. We pick the weekend after Hollow Weekend because we assume there's going to be a lot left over from Hollow Weekend. And it's open for anyone to join. We're still planning the routes. And in case it rains that day, we have a rain check for the next day. So that would be the Sunday. And we haven't planned the routes yet, as I just said. So if you know of any routes that would, or any streets that would get filled up with trash after an event like Halloween, please let me know so that I could suggest that to our chair. And also, there's a graffiti cleanup for downtown Burlington happening. I'm not sure of the dates and where exactly. I'm really sorry. I don't have that information off the top of my head. But if I do get more information on it, I will share it. And this is just an attempt that we try to do. And oh, by the way, community cleanup is every year, but we're trying to change it to every semester. And this is just a small attempt we do to try to give back to the neighborhood because we have a lot of students that live off campus. It's 8,000, if I'm not mistaken, which really affects the housing market, which is bad for everyone. And this is just one of the ways we try to give back to the community. And because Burlington and UVM are also very interconnected. UVM relies heavily on Burlington. Burlington relies heavily on UVM. And so this is just one of the ways. And yeah, if there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Nice to see you.
Yes.
I had a work obligation, missed the first meeting. I appreciate the work done, the community connection, and do try to make as many meetings as I can during the semester. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for the work that you do. I just wanted to say that I can connect you with people who can do training with regards to needle pickup. And there's also an app in the city called See Click Fix, and you can report needles on that app. And that gets to the team. We have a team that's helping with the pickup of needles. And the information that goes into See Click Fix also serves as a measure of hotspots in the city as to where needles are, and that it can indicate drug activity, and that information could be useful to the police department. So I can give you my contact information afterwards and give you that. But thank you for what you do. Also looking to start a butt cruise soon, which is to attack the issue of cigarette butts, which are not only dirty, they're also toxic to the environment. And I think that'd be a great thing to have students involved in as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We are a little bit over time, so I know that we don't have much time for more questions, but it's clear to me that you guys have been doing this for a while and you have a very successful model. You know, all too often we're here trying to solve some of the more challenging and pressing issues facing our community. So it's really nice to hear the work that you guys are doing with respect to the young people and some of the more positive things going on in the community we don't always hear about in the press cycle. So sounds like you've been doing it a while, and it's a model that's fit to be replicated, and perhaps we'll have that opportunity to work with you guys a little more closer throughout the coming year. Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for coming out tonight. Thank you. Right, and our final agenda item before moving into our public forum, we will hear marketplace garage updates. For those of you who have been following this issue closely, and some of the deliberations that have taken place at the city council with respect to the quote unquote free lunch program, and some of the resolutions that have been passed. This has been a little controversial to say the least. Some questions. So there was a thought that perhaps if we invited the sheriff's department into the NPA, provide an opportunity to hear from them directly as to what they have observed and seen in their time patrolling our garage on behalf of the people of Burlington. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sheriff Dan Catlin and Sergeant Tom Oliver, who are the gentlemen who actually do the patrols in the garage. Without further ado, I'll let you guys kind of talk about, you know, what it was like before and after, and if you got time, we'll pick some questions.
It was like June of 24 that we got contacted by the Department of Public Works. If we'd be interested in doing a security detail in the parking garage. The hours would be from 11:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. They picked those hours, we did not. And I agreed, if I had the people to do it, that we would do a contract with the city, you know, for the parking garage. So the first thing they asked us to do is they want make sure that the visitors in the community and the tourists were safe going into the parking garage, and that was the main thing. The second thing was people that were loitering in the parking garage, they would ask us to just move them along. The drug activity and the homeless population stuff, they asked us if they're camping out in there just to move them along. So that's what we've been doing. Tom has been there. He worked from July to December 31st, and I took over from January to June, and Tom is back there since June until the present. During the winter, you see an uptick. Obviously, most of them were in the stairwell, sleeping in there. When we get there, every floor would have 2, 3, if not more. We would just ask them to move along. I've never had an issue with anybody there. When we asked them to do something, they respectively, picked their stuff up and moved out. We've never made an arrest there. That I know of. I don't believe Tom has either.
There's been potential for it. but
Yeah, I mean, we've seen fights that we've broken up among some of the people that were in there, but other than that, there was no I had no probable cause, if you want to call it, to make an arrest, to send paperwork down to court. So during the winter, it was an uptick. Towards the summer, when I was asked by Becca McKnight on the 8th of July, because on July 1st, they moved the food not cops to City Hall Park. A week later, I was asked by Becca McKnight how things are going in there, and I visually noticed a big percentage of the homeless population not staying in there anymore. They weren't there. It was down to 75%. And the city never asked us to take stats. The city never asked us to have a spreadsheet. It was stuff that we visually saw every day. We're the ones that were walking the floors from the first deck to the 5th deck. We saw what's on the 5th deck all the way down. And those are the things that we visually saw. And I know there were some issues about stats, and the city never asked us to take stats. And to this day, they still haven't asked us to take stats. Tommy can speak on what's been going on since July, because I haven't been there since July. He's been there almost every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends.
Thank you. Well, first I'd like to say that the police department's been a good help to me, and vice versa. We've managed to collude on a few things, and just recently gleaned a suspect in a very significant tagging incident that happened. We have certainly felt the uptick in the latest clean out of City Hall Park. It's sort of fanned out, and we felt it in the parking garage in all three of them, Lakeside, College Street, and Marketplace. I am able to communicate quite frequently with the staff of the garages. They all have my phone number. So if they have a problem in Lakeside or the College Street one, I will go over and address it so they don't have to get involved with that. But it certainly has been more active in the last 2-3 weeks since they've buckled down a little bit. There's, a fair amount of people coming through the garage again.
What types of behavior do you typically observe?
You can think of it, we've probably seen it, but there's been a significant amount of drug use. There's a lot more paraphernalia or drug use tools that are left behind now. Again, debris. Sometimes we catch them, obviously doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's frequent.
Yeah, well, I've witnessed it all. I mean, the crack, smoking, the injection, there are things that we witnessed in there that probably some people wouldn't believe it happens there, but it happened, so.
So does the public use and consumption rise to the level of being a criminal offense? That something that's covered under the existing statute, either state or federally?
There's
lots of times when I see it, they're not really visible by a lot of people. They tuck themselves away. You'll find them in the alleyway surrounding the garage or hiding in front of a car or in a stairwell somewhere. Occasionally, though, they're in a place where people will see it, but that's less, it's not as frequent.
I mean, there's been visitors, you want to call it, people that park in there that will come up the elevator and come down the elevator or walk down the stairway and walk right over them and let us know, hey, they're up there. Because when we're down on the first floor, if they come in on the second deck, We don't know that they're up there, so that's why we gotta make sweeps. Because if we don't make sweeps, we don't know they're there unless somebody tells us they're up there. So, but I've watched people, do drugs there. It's there. What we can do criminally with that stuff, pretty much, nothing. You can't, charge somebody who is actively using drugs. I don't believe the state's attorney's office will take those cases. Am I correct?
I'm not sure about that on the small.
And you know what? The city did ask us if you see visually people actively doing drugs, just move them out. They didn't really want us to, act and make arrest or anything like that.
They wanted a soft approach.
Not all, yeah.
So do you record all of the interactions we have with people? Like if you catch someone engaging in one of these behaviors that it's kind of maybe not appropriate, do you say, hey, we talked to this individual or that individual and kind of keep stats that way? Or
And oftentimes they don't carry ID or really willing to identify themselves. You have to pretty much arrest them to get their identity.
but if you
Unless you know them.
But if you did have to move to the level of making a custodial arrest, there would be an incident. report
Yeah,
for that.
there would.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
So.
And we would be able to
It's fair
identify
to
them.
say that the reason that there's no data is because the directive has been to move people along and not to
Yes.
actually arrest people.
Yes.
And if we do start arresting people, if that was something that they wanted to do, that would really increase our time and involvement. Having to deal with that particular interaction, and then we wouldn't be in the garage. So.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming and sharing that. I'll be honest with you, when I saw what the kind term would be, but the city council bickering about quantitative, qualitative, whatever, I said, we'll never talk to the sheriff's department again, because I'm sure you were interrogated by every city councilor on. So did you, and so thank you very much. Did you happen to notice an increase in like garage usage when things were quieter? As you're walking around, were there like more?
And people approach me and said it's nice to be able to come into the garage and that they feel better about it. I've had people say that frequently.
Yeah, I mean, I think. So there's a political strategy, to my view, to minimize life experiences. You guys are trained professionals, you're spending all the time there. So whether your observations are mathematically perfect is not important to me. It is your observations of being in the middle there and saying things got significantly better. Definition of significant, not interesting, but not important to me, put it that way. So I appreciate your continuing to engage with us when things can get a little contentious over that. I'm sure that was just a real pleasure for you guys to go through that.
Thanks.
You ever film them, video them, video people, a body as you walking around? Yes, so that you're getting pictures and serves as a kind of identification.
Right.
Without asking them, what's your name?
Right.
Because
Yeah, the only way we can get an identity is to then show it to people who might have an idea who they are. And usually we can come up with a name without too much trouble.
I mean, BPD is, most of these officers I've worked downtown can identify most of these people. That's, we're not down there every day dealing with them, so we're not familiar with a lot of them. A lot of them enter to the courthouse that we have in our transports. Then those are the ones that we probably can identify, visually without asking for ID. There are people that we see downtown that we've seen in court. Down in what they call the Sally Port, where the people come in on arraignments, our transports from jail or warrants and stuff like that.
yeah. I used to work with people with problems and disabilities and social problems. I worked with a guy who He had been in 40 incidents where the police had a problem. And he was finally, Washington County Mental Health ran a program, and we kept eyes on him 24/7. 5 full-time jobs were not more expensive than a cell in the Waterbury Hospital, which is ridiculous. And yeah, he was basically taken to the country to cabin and lived out the last 5 or 10 years of his life away from people because he would just get antagonistic.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
I have 2 questions. One, what is the so for the contract to lack of better terms supervise the marketplace, what will be the top line value of that? So it's the Ward 3 and the Burlingtonia resident knows what that cost is to the city.
So the contract is $80 an hour, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week.
All right, $80 an hour.
So you're looking probably around, I want to say 80,000 a year, somewhere in that ballpark.
60 to 80.
Well, you look, 52 weeks out of the year.
All right.
Yeah.
And then has the discussion for and opened to the sheriff's department is providing support to the BPD and other forms other than just supervising such as like airport duty or helping with transportation of folks back and forth from Northwest Correctional.
So
has those conversations been broached in?
yeah, helping BPD with
Or at least-
transfers in jail.
Or like to come or assuming I'm airport duties.
I was contacted by the airport last year for some assistance. We just didn't have the personnel to assist them at that time. Everything that the sheriff's office do statewide, not just Chittenden County, is everything's through contracts. We don't get funded by tax dollars. The only tax dollars that the sheriff's office, and a lot of people don't know this, is we have 7 transport deputies or state employees. They're the only tax dollars that are supported through the state of Vermont for sheriffs around the state of Vermont, all 14 counties. The rest of them have to go through contracts. So every sheriff's office contracts, right, whatever they're doing. So like security details, like we got patrol details in Jericho, Underhill, Charlotte, Westford. We have a significant contract with a grocery chain here in the Burlington area. That's to deter and apprehend shoplifting. We made a major decrease on the one on North Avenue by 47%. We've made over 800 apprehensions just in retail theft in the core of the Burlington area, you want to call it, South Burlington, in that area. We have contracts with the railroad 7 days a week down at the waterfront. We have a security detail down there. We have a contract with Goldman Sachs, which is down here on, if you ever see the cruisers that are parked on the sidewalk over here between the old Chittenden Bank, MT Bank, and the back side of the old Macy's, the high school now. We watch that alleyway in the morning and the afternoon, so employees from 100 Bank Street get to their parking garage safely. Yeah, we have contracts with construction. This is how sheriffs are funded in the state of Vermont. Really odd because there's no county government. So there's no county government in Vermont. It's the county court across the street over here. There's a county side judges who have a county budget that they get tax dollars from each town to support the court. And 2 employees are staff at the sheriff's office. That's all they can use tax dollars for. There's a case that came out of Stowe versus Lamoille years ago where you cannot use county tax dollars to support any county sheriff's office for law enforcement purposes. Has to come through contracts. Really, interesting. Yeah, it is. It is interesting, and it's one of maybe 2-3 states in the country that have that. Yeah, no county government. And people don't realize that. So when people say you contract, we have to do everything through contract. So it's an odd thing, but that's how sheriff's offices are supported in the state of Vermont. When we have contracts with the state to move mental health patients from hospitals to facilities. And we got contracts with the Agency of Human Services for correction transports, some correction transports, and moving juveniles around the state and they're in custody of DCF. Yeah, so there's a lot of our contracts. That's how we support the sheriff's office.
And how many deputies does the county sheriff?
We have 21 full-time, 9 part-time. I'm very fortunate in Cheney County. I have retired police officers from Burlington, South Burlington, Colchester, Winooski, Shelburne. I got some federal agents that work for our office also. So we have experienced police officers. We have deputies from Franklin County that work for us. Tom was one of them. He came from Franklin County 7 years ago. So, yeah.
Some say other states are better organized for accomplishing their goals.
I mean, going back to the parking garage, I think we're getting everything we're getting from that is positive. It's the positive feedback for us being over there is great. Again, we're only there 4 hours a day. The 24 hours, we're only there 4. And you know what happens at night is I think there's Greenmount. I think Greenmount Security is over there at night. Is they still there at night? Greenmount Security.
Greenmount Concert Service. Yeah, I think that they.
Yeah. But
I think we have a question from the Central District now.
absolutely.
Thank you, gentlemen. Couple of quick questions. So I just want to, so again, appreciate the work that you've done in that garage.
Yep.
Just so people know, the previous company that was in there would put a car in there and no one would be present. So the mayor reevaluated that whole thing, said, this is not working. This is a waste of money for the city. And that's what led coming to the sheriff's department. I just want to clear up one bit of concern, because it was felt that your presence was needed for as much as possible during those hours that you're contracted for. I believe the mayor's intention, and I will ask her in our next communications to verify this, was that unless it was a particularly egregious or dangerous situation where you would have no choice but to arrest someone. Because if you arrest someone, then that pulls you away from the garage, and then you're not moving people along. And the priority for keeping that garage clear was for shoppers who come downtown. That's the first garage that they generally go to, which is the one that empties right onto Church Street. And so I just want, the mayor has supported Chief Burke in increasing drug arrests. His data that he presented Monday night included that. Dramatic increase in enforcement, which we were asking for and which has been occurring since he started the job. Dramatic increase in arrests, increase in investigations, although he can't say what those are until arrests are made, so he can't compromise those. But I just want people to understand, it's not like the mayor doesn't care about dealing. It's just that if you have to get involved with an arrest, then that pulls you away. And then we have the activity come in. So I appreciate you allowing me to make that clarification.
Yeah, I did have a conversation directly with the mayor about that when she came down one time to visit. But pretty clear what she was looking for. Now, I have made apprehensions down there when somebody was wanted by BP.
Right.
That I may
Okay.
spot or running from them.
So open warrant.
Something like that,
Okay.
or, you know, they were looking actively for somebody, and I have done that for them, just called them over. And they didn't know all of them.
Okay, great. Last quick question. So if there's no arrest or major incidents, those don't go into Valcor, which is where the quantitative data
That's
exists.
correct. That's correct.
Is there a way? Like if the city came to you and said, we want to know the data. If you can't enter something into Valcor, how can you actually track that? Do you have a separate system?
So when we arrive there, we let our dispatch know that we're at the parking garage. And then when we leave, we let them know we're back in service in the parking garage. That's on the radio level.
But in terms of the number of people
That's
that
hard
are
to get us to.
dealing with,
It's like being a police officer on the street, you don't.
Yep.
Every interaction you have with people, you're not punching a incident
okay,
that goes into Valcor, and it'd be
Right.
the same thing that we are doing at the parking garage. You could be chatting with people and, or they could be having a verbal argument. If
Okay.
you separate them and make them go on their way, there's no Valcor report for that.
right,
It's when they're, when
If you take some type of action, that kind of initiates, so.
a Valcor report,
Yeah.
right?
okay,
A call for service, when a dispatch picks up the phone and somebody's looking for the police, that's a call for service. There's an incident punched right away for that. For interaction with somebody on the streets, just chit chatting with them, or they're coming through the parking garage and they're arguing, say, hey, cut it out, guys. There's no incident that's gonna be punched for that.
Those
Okay.
incidents are captured on your body cam footage,
Yes,
and that footage, unless it's
it's
available.
It's there, available if we do end up having to punch something, and we can go back.
So theoretically, someone could put in a records request and analyze that video to determine potentially the number of individuals that you have interacted with on a given basis, assuming that the footage was.
yes, that would be a lot of work, yes.
now that would cost money too.
Yeah,
right?
'cause you pay for those, yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, thank you for
Yeah,
that,
well, yeah.
answering those,
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
We're actually a little ahead of schedule here. Well, actually, no, we're right on schedule.
No, we're right on schedule.
Thank you, Sheriff Gamlin. and
Yes, you're welcome.
For coming out. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
anytime.
It's been enlightening. I have some good takeaways. From the beginning.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate that so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for what you do.
Meeting. So before we move into public forum, I just wanna acknowledge the people that are participating by way of Zoom tonight. And also the people who are watching the stream on YouTube. I know that there's a number of you out there, so we do appreciate your interest in Ward 3, and hope that we have provided some useful information to you here in this public forum. And on that note, we will be moving into public forum. Try it a little differently tonight. I got some language here from one of the city councilors. I'll try to summarize, but basically to honor the spirit of intent with the public forum here. So just please direct your comments to the NPA in general and not any individual. We want to create a safe place for those in attendance and for those watching our meetings. The NPA certainly respects and values the diversity of opinions on public issues that we ask. However, all comments be free from any individualized attacks, hate, harassment, or other derogatory language about individuals, particularly any individuals with protected characteristics. We also ask that public comments avoid conduct which is unreasonably loud and disruptive or discourteous. And if any that behavior occurs, we do have the right to interrupt the speaker and give them an opportunity to behave in accordance with the guidelines here. If a person continues to violate these rules, we do have the right to end public comment at that point in time. Without further ado, we'll move into public comment. Anyone have anything that they would like to share? Brooks.
Keep me honest. Okay, thank you. I just want to comment on what went on Buell and South Winooski, which was a horrific event. So somebody had their spine severed by being hit by, I'm assuming intoxicated, but somebody in a Subaru came up on the sidewalk and took out a 24-year-old. That's last weekend. So my observation would be, and I will tie it back to City Hall Park. So I spend way too much time at City Hall Park, and either that day or the day before, I don't remember. That Subaru was very recognizable. And they were parked going the wrong way in front of City Hall Park, but parked by the curb with a flurry of activities, windows open, people chatting. I will leap to the assumption that illicit behavior was being had. So then they went up, got on the sidewalk, took this woman out. And the female, if you look at some YouTube stuff, the female was obviously intoxicated. And if you read the report, the male there was drug paraphernalia all over the place. So it was, I wanted to say it was a horrible, horrible thing. So if we cleaned out City Hall, maybe that would have happened or not, right? I'm leaping, as we said, we're pushing people out of City Hall Park, and drug users are going to, continue to do that. But I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that horrific event that went on this weekend. Fingers crossed that she has somewhat of a chance of a life flu. Thank you.
So last several months, I've been looking into what has happened to the Aging Council. It's sort of defunct, or I'm not quite sure what is going on. I've approached the city, filled out my little paper by the mayor's office a couple of times, and I've really gotten nothing. I noticed, it could have been really helpful with Charlie's number 11 bus. They could have interceded and perhaps spoken to somebody. The Aging Council could have been really helpful when they closed down the, I don't even know what it was within Parks and Recs, where they feed the elderly people and there's a little social gathering for them. Two of my friends went to that and now no longer have any place to go. I don't know what's going on. Nobody seems to answer me. But I know that CETO, you go online and you look at who the members are, it used to say CETO was the president or was the who ran it. I know that CETO is now incorporated in another group. That person's name is no longer there. There's just a blank where it says CETO representative, nothing. There's nobody there. There was an empty spot that said that they were looking for a member of a community member that was from a underrepresented group. That has now changed. They're looking for someone that belongs to and I don't ever get these initials right, REBI, is that REID? So they're looking for someone that is not just a citizen, but someone that represents that organization or that department. But nobody knows anything. And we could have really used some help with the number 11 bus and also that program. So I don't know what's going on.
Charlie, and I'll go to pass around.
Yes, I am in the still alive and kicking Council on Aging. And we don't meet all the time, and we are an advisory council to the city council. And we try to communicate our main concerns. We have things like making things better for the old people. And I have said things like, we must fix the sidewalks. And they say, well, make it part of our initiative. Well, implement the initiative as part of our action plan. And it goes deeper than that. That hole is pretty deep. But I think in common language, we could get more accomplished. And it's difficult at times to get everybody together and to say, we need this. Like, you want old people to be more comfortable, you have to fix a lot of sidewalks. And that's a big thing that costs money. I think you have to do 100 feet to get it federally funded. And this is one of the problems. But we've gotten them to say, we want to help with the old people. They're at least 10% of the city.
20 seconds.
20? Okay, up to 20. And we can do something for the older people. One of the things would be bringing back that bus, but also just fixing all kinds of things in the sidewalks so that they can move around the city. And it's very difficult for them to move around the city. I live in a building where there are people who do not go out. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you. When you get home, you have an email from me. I have sent, because your question to how new members get on was a good one, because I wasn't sure what that counts as. So as soon as I hear back, and I did copy the Nucito director on that. I just wanted to say with regards to the presentation that the chief of police did at Monday's meeting. He does similar presentations once a month at the Public Safety Committee, along with the fire chief. So every month there is data that is being provided. With regards to the last resolution, if people have the time and can read the resolution, you will see that a lot of the initial causes say to continue, to continue, to continue, because the work was being done. It wasn't like they started enforcement after that resolution. He had been doing, he's been going gangbusters since he started. And as we all know, he's been downtown. So I continue to recommend, there's a Front Porch Forum post that we did with links to various meetings with the timestamps for the relevant conversations that people might be interested in. Just wanted to mention that. Thank you. I also, for anyone who, before you leave, if you want to see a picture that I took at another garage, just to see how the activity moves, and this is where the community bank ATM is. It's attached to the garage that is near Friendly Toast, and people go back there. But
There's lots goes on there.
there's a lot that goes on there, and it's for me, it's about trying to honor everyone's experiences, because I get complaints like every other day about where it moves. We're getting complaints about is people went back into alleys, into vestibules. They're right across the street from the park. So, you know, he was very clear. Yep, incidents went down the park, and in the immediate area right outside the park, they went up. So we're just moving it around. Thank you so much.
Unless there's any further comment or, yeah, or.
Here you go.
Okay, so I'm Charlie G. I live in Ward 2. I first got involved with the NPAs back around, or heavily involved with the NPAs back around the year 2000, 2001, 2002. When Donna Bister and Mark Estrin and Terry Barishas asked me to become almost take over, because they had been doing it for so long. So I'm just giving you a little history there. But so I've been associated with wards 2 and 3 NPA for a long time. And so one of the things that we talked about way back then was that anytime there was going to be a vote at the wards 2 or 3 NPA meeting, what we would do is, the information for 20, 25 years has been to present the information to the public at an NPA meeting, and then the following month you would have a vote on it. So in between, you would have an opportunity to basically dramatically tell the public that something was happening, not just an official warning of an event or of a meeting, but an actual conversation with the public. For instance, in each ward, you've got 4,000 or 5,000 people. The reason I'm speaking now is because tonight, for the second time, I've seen something happen here at Ward 3, where a very significant thing has happened. But out of the 4,000 or 5,000 people in the ward, I think only 4 or 5 people knew about it. And then, so it's presented at a meeting, and then 10 minutes later, there's a vote on it. So you got 4 or 5 people basically making a dramatic change in an NPA for 4,000 or 5,000 people. So I'm basically saying that for the longest time, you would present something at one meeting, educate the public for a month, and then have a vote on it at the following meeting. And I hope that that can be done here at the Ward 3 NPA in the future. Thank you.
Let's just wrap it up.
All right, so we are at 8:30, and since everyone wanted to speak in public forum has now had that opportunity, and we'll adjourn the meeting here at 8:32 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for coming and joining us on your Wednesday evening.
That's it.